Hello, I'm State Representative Kristina Roegner from the 37th House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm your host, Brad Miller. Today I'm speaking with State Representative Kristina Roegner, who serves the 37th House District, which includes portions of northeastern Summit County. Representative, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brad. It's great to be here.
You are working on several pieces of legislation, and we're going to take this opportunity to kind of run through some of them. The first one we're going to talk about is House Bill 12, which deals with boilers.
Right.
Can you talk to us about what this bill does?
Absolutely. So boilers in the state of Ohio, if they're over 30 horsepower, they're required to have a full-time licensed operator, a steam engineer, in attendance 24/7. And this law was set back in 1911. So before the Titanic sailed.
More than 100 years.
More than 100 years ago, and obviously technology has come a long way since then, as well as our safety. And so what this bill does is it says, if your boiler is over 30 horsepower, it can be made exempt from that full-time operator requirement if it'll meet certain safety standards, and these standards then will be set by our Department of Commerce.
Can you give us a sense of what types of buildings or businesses, or how many boilers some businesses might use?
Well, we're talking about these larger boilers, or you'll find them in hospitals and large like universities, for example. And interestingly enough, you ask how many do they use? Well, because Ohio has this threshold at 30 horsepower and above, you're seeing businesses, even Ohio universities, so public universities saying, well, we don't want to go over that 30 horsepower threshold, so instead we're going to buy 3 or 4 or 5 smaller boilers to meet our needs. And just to get around that license requirement. So, and those boilers that are just under that 30 horsepower are called the Ohio Special. So this whole type of boiler has come up just to get around the law. So we're trying to restore some common sense to that old section of code. The Common Sense Initiative has just recently issued a letter in support of it. It passed the House, and it's heading over to the Senate now. It's in the Senate committee.
Moving right along, another bill is House Bill 71, which you introduced earlier this year, deals with how the state identifies drivers who are driving without auto insurance. Can you talk about that bill?
Right, yeah, no, absolutely. So in the state of Ohio, you're required to have automobile insurance. And the way we check that to make sure that you have it is either when you're stopped for a ticket, or you have an accident. Of course, it's too late then to check. We also have this thing called a random verification program, which randomly sends out 5,000 letters a week to people to say, prove you have insurance or your license is going to be suspended. Well, the vast majority of people that get that letter, 90% of them, have insurance, and all you've done is inconvenience them. So what we're saying now is let's use data, again, technology that's available to us. Other states are doing this as well, to say what people have insurance, which people have dropped insurance, this data would get from the insurance companies, and then target those letters. I mean, send them more specifically to people that are likely to be driving without insurance. So we're not inconveniencing people, we're not wasting money, and we are getting the uninsured drivers off the road.
You mentioned other states are doing this. Was that a large inspiration for this bill? What kind of factors did you look into, and what has the response been like?
The response has been overwhelmingly positive. Where this bills come from so many different sources, and that one I've heard from different people, from the industry that work with these types of programs, but also individuals, fellow representatives saying, I got this letter and I've got insurance and it's so inconvenient, I even have to put my own stamp on it. You know, this is just a bad program. We gotta improve it. So I've heard from a lot of people about that, and some newspapers have picked up on it as well, and it's all been very positive. So we introduced it. We had proponent testimony in committee. There is a financial responsibility committee being formed based on that's House Bill 278 from the prior General Assembly, and I serve on that. I will be serving on that committee. So we'll certainly be looking at this bill as well as several others.
House Bill 118 is in the State and Local Government Committee. What are the objectives of this? This bill deals with bond issues and how information is presented. Is that correct?
Absolutely. This House Bill 118 is all about government transparency and providing information to voters so that when they go to the polls, they can make more informed decisions. And specifically, this bill addresses debt. So there are certain when government issues debt, there are certain types when you have the general fund backing it, that it has to go before the voters. So like revenue fund bonds don't have to go to the voters, but general obligation bonds do. And so they'll be at the polls. And voters, well, you have to say, what's the project for currently? What's the interest rate expected? What's the term of the bond's going to be? So general information about that particular issuance. And that's current law. What House Bill 118 says is, well, let's not look at it in a vacuum. Let's also let the voters know how much current debt is out there for that local government or school or even the state of Ohio. And even more importantly, what does that mean per person? So, like, do you know what your share, Brad, of Ohio's debt is?
I do not.
See, this would help that.
So we're clear. Say I'm a voter, I walk into the polling place, my ballot is in front of me. What do I see?
You'll see all the same stuff you saw before, plus 3 additional pieces of information. Literally, it'll just be like 3 line items. One saying, this municipality has X amount of debt outstanding. Your share of that debt outstanding is X. $2,000, whatever it might be. The third piece then is, if this issue were to pass, what is the current, the outstanding debt plus this new issuance? So what's that new total look like in terms of a net sum and also per person?
So it's simply
capita.
Providing more information than what we would normally get.
More information, yeah, because I believe the more information voters have, the better decisions they can make.
Another bill, the fourth we're going to talk about, is House Bill 151, which you recently introduced, which would make Ohio the 25th right-to-work state in the nation. What are some of the objectives and provisions in this bill?
Okay. First of all, for the listeners that might not know what right-to-work is, right-to-work basically says that you no longer have to join an employee organization or a union as a condition of employment. So it's all about individual freedom. You can join a union if you want to, but the bill says you don't have to, and you don't have to pay those union dues. So that's what it does. Now, I've introduced House Bill 151, and that specifically addresses the private sector. There's another piece of legislation from another representative that would address the public sector. And that would put it into statute, and basically put it into Ohio law if it passed. And as you said, Ohio would be the 25th state to adopt this.
Half the country.
Half the country is, so half the country would be going that way.
Indiana and Michigan recently announced or became right-to-work states. How do you think Ohio will be affected or might be affected by those decisions?
Oh, well, Brad, when the CEOs look where they're going to locate plants or facilities, they look at the business environment, the climate. What is it like in the state? And that's a lot of factors go into that. I mean, the tax climate, how onerous are the taxes, your regulatory environment, but also your labor workforce. Are they skilled? Do they have the education that's needed for those particular jobs? And are they free, meaning right to work? So all these factors go into a decision of where they're going to locate plants, where they're going to move the jobs. So, with Michigan going right to work and Indiana, both of those right on our immediate neighbors, I really believe that that gives them sort of another tool in their toolkit, if you will, to attract jobs. Ohio is doing a fantastic job improving our business climate. We've done many other wonderful things that I'm very proud of, reducing our tax burden, eliminating the estate tax, the common sense regulatory reform, which I sponsored in the House. We've done some wonderful things. Jobs Ohio, we've made some tremendous strides, and I think in the most recent CEO magazine, Ohio was moved up like 13 points, 13 rankings. I mean, it was the highest mover of all the states, and so certainly we have a lot to be proud of. But you know, interestingly enough, if you look at the top 10 states on that list, do you know what they have in common? You know where I'm going with this?
Go ahead.
They're all right to work.
So there's a lot of factors that go into it, and this would be another factor that would add to that. You also introduced a resolution which would put this on the ballot. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So it's House Joint Resolution number 5, and I did that together with Representative Mag, and that would put this issue of right to work as a constitutional amendment on the ballot to let the voters decide. So, you know, it's I just believe it's the right thing to do for Ohio. To me, it doesn't matter if we get there through statute with these bills or through a constitutional amendment at the ballot. Either way is fine with me. The reason we introduced 2 pieces of legislation plus that joint resolution is to give the General Assembly as much flexibility as possible in determining the right path forward.
We have a few minutes left. We're entering the summer months, and it's beginning to feel like it as well. Usually in the district throughout the summer, there's more going on. You'll still be busy at the State House, obviously. What are some of the things you've been interacting with your constituents?
So some of the things I love policy, and all this work we're doing here in Columbus is great, but I really enjoy working with constituents, particularly the children in the district. And we've had several very cool programs going on. One is this art program where we had 4th graders, and it's in the 4th grade, you study Ohio history. I said, all right, on a regular piece of paper, draw a picture that defines Ohio to you. And we had hundreds of them turn in, and they were beautiful. And we picked like the top 8, and we had them framed, and they're going to be hanging in my office. And then the remainder of them we're sending on to veterans to thank them for their service, and to active Ohio military men and women to thank them for their service.
And you also hold office hours, visit schools, deal with or work with constituents in those realms as well.
Now, if you have any teachers that are listening, one of the things I love to do is to go into a classroom, and whether it's 4th grade or seniors or anyone in between, seniors in high school, and divide up the class. You're half of the House, you half of the Senate. What do you think would be a good law for Ohio? And those students get so engaged, and we run it just like we do in the House. I make them stand up next to their desk, to explain their bill, talk about the pros and cons, and then the class, of course, will vote. And the teacher's always the governor and gets to sign into law.
So it gives them a first-hand account of what goes on down here.
It really is. It's fun, and the students sometimes are like, "Was that real? Did we really make pizza every day on Friday a law?" I'm like, well, it was actually just, you know, it was an exercise, so no, we didn't really pass that law. But it feels very real to them, and they understand after that how a bill does become a law once you've done it.
I might support the pizza policy.
Me too.
We usually end every episode with you talking about what are the easiest ways your constituents can get a hold of you.
Okay. Any way that's easiest for them, quite frankly. I mean, whether it's my cell phone, email. Are you putting these on the bottom of the screen?
Yes,
okay, they'll all be on the bottom of the screen. Certainly my office aide, Jenna Beadle, she's my legislative aide. She's wonderful, and would contact me however they see fit.
Representative, thanks for taking
that
some time with us today.
Thanks.
We look forward to seeing you again on the next edition of Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. Thank you for joining us.